Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a closer look, really digging into one of the world's biggest financial players, Fidelity Investments. And the scale is just, wow, it's staggering. As of June 2025, we're talking $6.4 trillion in assets under management.
Yeah, $6.4 trillion. It's a number so big, it's almost hard to wrap your head around. Larger than the GDP of many countries.
Oh,
a
yeah.
real titan.
Absolutely. But, our mission today isn't really about their latest mutual fund performance. We want to do a true deep dive and figure out where the real power lies inside this, honestly, quite opaque empire.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Because if you ask anyone who runs Fidelity, they'll say Abigail Johnson, the CEO. And they're right, in a way. But our sources, and when you dig into the structure, they suggest the ultimate kind of structural force is quieter. Older even, and definitely invisible to most people.
Okay, so we're pouring back the curtain a bit here on Edward Johnson IV. Ned Johnson IV, right. Abigail's cousin, grandson of the founder, Edward C. Johnson II.
That's him. And crucially, he's not the one managing the trillions day to day. He doesn't do the big interviews. I mean, try finding a clear photo of him online. It's tough.
He really seems to avoid the limelight.
Completely. He embodies this idea we're exploring today. Let's call it shadow power.
Shadow power. Explain that a bit.
It's the idea that real, lasting influence, the kind that spans generations, might not come from the flashy CEO title. Instead, it's built into the architecture of ownership. It's in the trusts, the holding companies, the control over, actual stuff, tangible assets.
So Edward IV controls the scaffolding, the invisible framework.
That's a great way to put it. The invisible scaffolding that lets the visible leaders, like Abigail, operate effectively.
All right, let's unpack that scaffolding then. First question has to be, how is Fidelity even structured to allow for this kind of, hidden foundational power?
Okay, look at the landscape. Almost every other giant firm you mentioned, BlackRock, Vanguard, Goldman Sachs, they're all public companies.
Right, meaning they answer to shareholders, quarterly reports, activist investors, constant pressure.
Exactly. Constant pressure. Fidelity. Totally different playground. It's private.
Privately held. Tightly controlled by the Johnson family through the parent company FMR LLC. That's the absolute key, isn't it?
It changes everything. FMR LLC is like the command center. It owns the whole show, the mutual funds, the brokerage, all the subsidiaries we'll talk about. And because the family owns FMR LLC, they write the rules.
So the day-to-day running, that's Abigail Johnson, but the ultimate authority
Sits deeper. Within the family ownership of the actual system itself, not just managing it, but owning it.
Okay, so if Edward IV isn't CEO, how does he wield this power? What does shaping trust structures and private equity stacking actually mean in practice?
It means he's involved in locking down the ownership levers for the very long term. The family holds its stake, not just like, regular shares you or I might buy.
It's more complex.
Much more. Think layers of complex trusts, private entities, often designed for multi-generational control and, frankly, tax efficiency. Edward IV played a key role, apparently, in setting up these foundational private structures years ago.
So his stake isn't just shares, it's woven into the very fabric of the ownership.
Precisely. It guarantees him this permanent high-level influence on FMR LLC's strategic direction. He's not sweating the daily trades. He's making sure the machine stays aligned with the family's long-term dynastic goals.
Owning the structure insulates you from the market noise, the quarterly scramble.
Totally. The family gets to play the long game, the really long game, generations.
That idea reminds me of Warren Buffett, Give me a lever long enough, it shifts the focus from just paper wealth, which can vanish overnight.
Exactly. Financial assets are volatile. So if the lever is private ownership, Edward Johnson IV seemed to have understood he needed a place to stand that was, rock solid, immovable.
And that place to stand is actual ground, literal land. Let's pivot then, away from the $6.4 trillion in financial assets, the stocks and bonds.
To the physical, to tangible land. And this seems to be Edward Johnson V's domain.
Real estate is the spine of the empire. That's a strong image.
I think it fits. While the funds are maybe the fast-moving bloodstream, Edward IV is heavily involved with Pembroke Real Estate.
Pembroke. Okay, I've heard of it, but it's not the first thing people associate with Fidelity.
Right, but here's the crucial part. Pembroke isn't just some random investment. It's a wholly owned subsidiary of FMR LLC.
So its profits, its strategy, that feeds directly back into the family's private holding company.
Directly. And Pembroke is substantial. You mentioned the numbers, over 6.5 million square feet of commercial property as of 2025.
And it's not just any property, right? It's strategic. Prime locations.
Highly strategic. Think prime office towers, major developments, not just anywhere, but in global hubs. London, Tokyo, and maybe the best example, Boston.
Boston's Seaport District, that transformation was huge.
Incredible. And Pembroke was right there, a key player in turning what was basically forgotten industrial land into this buzzing tech and finance hub.
So these developments, they don't just make money, they physically anchor Fidelity. They give the family actual territory in key global cities.
Yes. It provides physical presence, visibility on their terms, and reinforces that long-term hold in strategic places.
So why? Why focus so much on dirt and buildings when you're swimming in trillions of liquid assets? Why is land the ballast?
Well, think about it. Financial markets can go crazy based on a news headline, right? A tweet can move billions.
True. Very volatile.
Land, though, it tends to appreciate over the long haul. It generates steady income through rent. And fundamentally, it's a counterweight to all that financial volatility.
And it's scarce.
That's the ultimate point. Edward IV seems to be investing in scarcity. You can't print more land. If you control the ground, you influence everything that happens on top of it, what gets built, who moves in, how business flows. It's like territorial command, almost.
That focus on permanence, on the physical, it connects interestingly to his own personal strategy, or lack thereof. The silence.
Let's talk about that, because it's maybe the most counterintuitive part in today's world.
His invisibility factor.
It's remarkable, isn't it? He's not at Davos shaking hands. He doesn't write books on leadership. He avoids interviews with the big financial papers.
Nothing like the modern CEO as influencer model we see so often.
Right. His approach feels almost pre-modern. It's pure, low exposure, high control.
Is the silence itself a strategy then?
I think it has to be. It's deliberate. It insulates him. And by extension, the core family control from all the external noise media cycles, public opinion swings, political scrutiny.
So Abigail is the public face, taking the heat, managing the day-to-day public perception.
While he remains this stabilizing but crucially less exposed figure behind the scenes. He's not subject to the same pressures.
But why bother being invisible if you have that much structural power? Wouldn't you want some recognition?
For the dynasty, maybe visibility is actually a liability. Think about it. Studies on ultra-wealthy families often show that the ones who keep a lower profile tend to hold on to their assets and control across generations much longer.
Less attention means fewer threats.
Fewer threats. Legal challenges, reputational hits, maybe even political pressure when you control that much wealth. His silence is a form of risk management. It's like a cloak of invisibility in the public square. It enhances durability.
He's playing for legacy, not headlines.
Exactly. Securing the legacy through quiet command.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense strategically. Now, let's touch on maybe the most sensitive part, the inner circle game. How does this private ownership structure potentially allow for certain financial maneuvers?
Right, because decisions don't need shareholder approval in the same way. They flow through family lines, through private entities. This is where that structural advantage of FMR LLC really comes into play.
And this involves their internal venture capital arm.
Yes, F Prime Capital. Critically, it's the family's own internal VC fund, part of the FMR LLC structure.
So it's essentially the family's private seed fund operating within the larger Fidelity empire.
Precisely. F Prime gets in early on promising startups, often pre-IPO when valuations are much lower. They invest private family capital, nurture these companies.
They get significant stakes early on.
Significant stakes, often at very favorable terms compared to what the public market eventually sees.
Okay, and here's where the structure becomes really powerful. Walk us through this concept of time arbitrage in this context. How does the sequence work?
Okay, so time arbitrage here means using that private structure to profit from the gap between early private valuations and later public ones. The sequence is pretty straightforward.
Step one.
Step one. The family's F Prime invests early, privately, in a promising startup. This generates potentially huge returns for the family's private holdings if the company takes off.
Okay, F Prime is in early, then what?
Step two. Later on, maybe the company goes public or does a big funding round. Now, the massive Fidelity mutual funds, the ones holding trillions from everyday investors like you, they buy into the same company.
And by the time the public mutual funds buy in,
the valuation's almost certainly much, much higher than when F Prime got its initial stake.
So the big funds, fueled by public money, help solidify the high valuation.
Which in turn makes the family's earlier, cheaper F Prime investment look incredibly successful. It's a cycle. The public funds provide scale and liquidity, validating the venture that the private arm backed early on.
Legally, it's separate entities, but strategically.
Strategically, it's a very effective loop, only really possible because of that tight, vertically integrated private structure of FMR LLC.
So Edward Johnson IV, while maybe not picking the startups himself day to day.
His role in governance is crucial. He's safeguarding the machine that allows this kind of internal capital flow. He helps control the room where these strategic levers are designed and maintained, ensuring alignment between the private family interests and the public fund operations, all within the FMR structure.
It all comes back to owning and controlling the structure.
Absolutely. His focus isn't just profit this quarter, it's generational continuity, durability. He's playing for 50, 100 years down the line. He's safeguarding the physical assets, the legal framework, the family control, the foundations, supporting the entire $6.4 trillion machine.
So we started with this mind-boggling number, $6.4 trillion. But the real lesson from this deep dive, it seems, is about where influence truly sits. It's not always the name on the CEO door.
Definitely not. Edward Johnson, the 50th story, well, it suggests that power doesn't always need the spotlight. Sometimes power is busy building the stage itself, the stage where everyone else, the CEO, the funds, the public, performs.
His influence isn't built on fame or headlines.
No, it's built on owning the ground, owning the foundation, owning the structure.
He chose invisibility, it seems, to guarantee control over the long haul. He went for ownership over recognition.
Which leaves us, and you listening, with a final thought to chew on, maybe. If you had that kind of power, that foresight to build a lasting legacy, would you rather be known, visible, celebrated in the moment?
Or would you rather own? Own the structure, own the ground, the very foundation that everything else relies on. Which one holds the real power in the end?